Aging and disease are biochemical processes that happen over many decades. So if we track and optimize or attempt to optimize well-established biomarkers of organ and systemic health, can aging and disease risk be slowed? So apologies if you've heard that now a trillion times, but that's the central premise of this channel. So with that in mind, earlier this month, I blood tested for the second time in 2024. And note that this is now test number 50 since 2015. So with that in mind, what's my biological age? And we can see that data here. This is using Dr. Morgan Levine's phenotypic age calculator as an index of biological age. And if you have blood test data and you want to calculate your own biological age using this metric, there'll be a link in the video's description, a downloadable free link, no email required. So when entering these data, these 9 biomarkers and chronological age, I got a biological age of 31.7 years, which is 19.5 years younger than my chronological. Now, note that the data could actually be younger than 31.7 years, as for the 16th consecutive test, Quest Labs' hsCRP measurement was less than 0.3 milligrams per liter. In other words, CRP could be less than that, but not more than that, as that's their limit of detection. And rather than looking at blood test data entered into a spreadsheet, there'll be screenshots of the lab test report coming up in about a minute or two. Now, this is just one test. It's important to not get too excited about one test, as it could just be an outlier. So with that in mind, let's take a look at biological age results for more context since 2018, as I have 31 tests over that time period. And that's what we can see here. So from 2018 to 2019, 3 tests over 2 years, average pheno age was 36.1 years. And I didn't include hsCRP at every blood test back then, just because it's not included on the CBC here in the States. So after 2019, I started to include it for every test, such that there were 12 tests, 6 in 2020 and 6 in 2021. And for both of those years, average pheno age was 35.6 years. Now that's probably closer to a true representation of year-to-year changes relative to 2018 to 2019, where it was only 3 tests. Then in 2022, I reduced it to 33.8 years. It went up in the wrong direction, 34.7 in 2023. And thus far, after 2 tests in 2024, average pheno age is off to a good start at an average of 33 years. Now, it's also important to note that the latest test of 31.7 is my best data to date over 31 tests. So then a big question is, can I maintain this 19.5 year reduction going forward, or is it just an anomaly? But for now, let's dig into the full blood test report, as biological age clocks may have weak spots, so it's important to highlight other aspects of the blood test report. So first, HDL at 61 is my highest since 2015. My average HDL since 2015 over 50 tests is 46 milligrams per deciliter. Now, in disagreement with the idea that 61 is just a fluke or a random thing, HDL is now greater than or equal to 50 milligrams per deciliter for the 7th consecutive test. And if you're interested in knowing how I've been able to move the needle, I post correlations in the correlations tier on Patreon, so check that out if interested. Now, LDL at 82 isn't tremendously high, but I purposely was aiming for the higher end of my recent range, as relatively higher LDL may lead to a younger Dunedin pace, a younger epigenetic pace of aging. And if you missed that video, it'll be in the right corner. I don't yet have results for Dunedin pace, but once that data arrives in late March, early April, I expect to see a video coming very shortly thereafter. All right, so then we can see the hsCRP at less than 0.3, and then at the bottom we can see glucose at 84. And I've highlighted glucose because my average glucose since 2015 over 48 tests is about 90 milligrams per deciliter. So hopefully I'm able to consistently keep glucose a bit lower going forward. All right, on to page 2. Creatinine now for the second test in a row is at 0.91. And that's potentially important because my 50 test average is 1.0 milligrams per deciliter. Now, that's potentially important because creatinine levels increase during aging as a potential marker of poor kidney function or reduced kidney function during aging. So that I've reduced it by a bit is potentially good news. Also, Quest Lab flagged 2 biomarkers as being out of range. The first is globulin at 1.8, which is low. Now, I haven't come across how globulin changes during aging. If anyone has seen that data in a relatively large study, please post it in the comments. But there is all-cause mortality data where values around 3 or higher are associated with an increased all-cause mortality risk in older adults. So generally lower for globulin and avoiding any potential age-related increase would be good news. So I'm not worried about a 1.8 being on the lower side for globulin. Accordingly, because the albumin to globulin ratio includes a relatively low globulin with a relatively high albumin, 5.1 in my case, which is youthful, Quest Lab also flagged the ratio. All right, so also previous ALT and AST liver enzymes were 24 and 28 respectively, whereas now they're 23 and 25. So that's moving in the right direction as values in the low 20s are associated with lowest all-cause mortality risk, whereas values approaching the upper 20s and beyond is associated with an increased all-cause mortality risk. And then there were improvements to red blood cell related measures, including total red blood cells, 4.9 for this test versus 4.53 for the last. Hemoglobin, 14.9 for this test versus 14.6 for the last. Both red blood cells and hemoglobin declined during aging, so this is moving back in the right direction after the last test, which moved in the wrong direction. And then also the MCV, the mean corpuscular volume. So this is the average volume of red blood cells, which increases during aging. I was able to flip that, to reverse it by a bit, from 92.3 from the last test down to 90.8. And again, if you're curious about how I've been able to do this, I follow correlations between diet with the biomarkers, and those correlations are posted in the correlations tier on Patreon. I also sent a bunch of other stuff for analysis on that March 4th test date, including NAD, epigenetic and telomere testing, and metabolomics. So expect update videos for those biomarkers coming in future videos. But now there are still 2 outstanding questions, and the first one I touched upon it earlier. Can I repeat these data for test number 3, which is scheduled for April 29th in 2024? So I don't want this to just be a one-test anomaly. I want to be able to maintain at least a 19.5-year reduction for every test going forward. And then also the next question would be can I maintain that for years and have no age-related increase in that 19.5-year reduction? And then also, what diet and supplements correspond to this 19.5-year younger biological age? And that will be in next week's video, so stay tuned for that. All right, that's all for now. If you're interested in more about my attempts to biohack aging, check us out on Patreon, where I include blood test consults. We've also got some discount links and merch that you may be interested in, including discount links for epigenetic and telomere testing, NAD quantification, oral microbiome composition, at-home metabolomics, at-home blood testing with SciFox Health, green tea, diet tracking with Chronometer, or if you'd like to support the channel, you can do that with the website Buy Me a Coffee. We've also got merch, so if you're interested in wearing the ConquerAging or Die Trying brand, as I've got on here, that link and all of the other links will be in the video's description. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.